Hi there and welcome to Capital View. The hanging of Mumbai blast accused Yakub Memon last week has sparked off a fierce political and legal debate on the death penalty. Is it time to abolish the death penalty completely? Joining me on that question, Chandan Mitra of the BJP, Asaduddin Owaisi of the All India Ittihadul Muslimin, and Colin Gonsalves, Senior Supreme Court lawyer. Thanks everyone very much indeed for being here. Chandan Mitra, by hanging Yakub Memon, has the Indian state sent out a strong message of deterrence to terrorists, or has the state ended up looking rather inhumane and violent?
Anybody who is responsible for taking so many lives deserves no mercy, and the death penalty is the only appropriate punishment for such a vicious criminal. I think it's not a question of morality, really does not come in. When a person lacks morality completely and in cold blood kills or even conspires to kill so many people in pursuit of an elusive revenge or dream or whatever, I think definitely deserves to die, and we have done right.
Right. No question of removing death penalty, and he deserved to die. Yakub Memon deserved to die. He was first given the death sentence in 2007. It was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2013. Then 7 stages of the judicial process he went through. So it could be said that he's had full access to justice. He had ample opportunity to make his case. He's had access to the legal process.
Except that this is one of those very extraordinary cases where at the end of it all, critical evidence comes to light which shows that Yakub Memon was not a person incapable of being reformed. Nothing in the trial court, nothing in the High Court, nothing in the Supreme Court, and all of a sudden, at the fag end of the entire process, you get information from the intelligence establishment, not from NGOs and anybody else, from the intelligence establishment that Yakub Memon was critical in helping them nab the culprits. He was a man collaborating with the intelligence agencies. Told to the Supreme Court, what does the Supreme Court say? It was not disclosed in the trial court, not disclosed in the High Court, not disclosed in the Supreme Court till today. So we will not look at it. Is that correct? You're taking away a man's life. He is telling you, not he, the intelligence agency is telling you, they're writing in the newspapers, a Supreme Court judge is pleading, look at the evidence that has come on record, namely that the public prosecutors in the trial court hid from the court, suppressed from the court, this vital evidence that this man was collaborating with them in catching the accused.
He was all along, Chandan Mitra, collaborating with the agencies, helping them catch the accused, helping them get the information. Does such a person deserve his life to be taken by the same state which he is helping?
No, he did not come here to help the state, for heaven's sake. I mean, I cannot believe my ears to hear that, he is such a harmless man who was only trying to help India nab the killers, whereas he is himself a killer. I mean, this kind of perverted logic, really I don't understand where this fits in to the judicial process. The man was a criminal. Period.
We're saying it's not a question of his innocence or guilt. We're saying let's establish his guilt, but does he deserve the death penalty?
The fact is that even if he was helping, so what? After killing, if a man goes around claiming that after all I was only trying to help, then the least he could have done was not kill. So what if he's helping?
So what if he's helping?
Well, it's a critical turnaround because the Supreme Court says, see, all death sentence cases are heinous crimes. All death sentence cases. The critical difference is that if you want to prove that the man should not hang, you must show that that person is capable of being reformed. Now,
that's
Yakub
what rarest
Memon,
of rare means.
Now, if the person has indeed reformed, if the person indeed is helping the police catch his fellow criminals and will stay the rest of his life in jail, he's never going to be released, is that the proper option to the death penalty, yes or no? President doesn't consider it. President doesn't look at it at all. President rejects his mercy petition without looking at the intelligence reports. Supreme Court says we'll not look at it. We'll not look at it. Why? Because it was not told to us earlier. Got it? So nobody is looking at the aspect of the man capable of being reformed.
Chandan Mitra, it's not about innocence and guilt. We are establishing that the crime is heinous. What we are debating is the death penalty. What we are debating is rarest of rare.
Look, the state is not in the business of reformatory. It is not a reformatory. The state is to deliver punishment when a heinous crime is committed. And in this particular case, and I would like to make a distinction
but the definition of rarest of rare is this a person who is capable of being reformed or not?
I'm sorry, Sagarika, this question need not be applied in the case of terrorists.
Let me now bring in Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi, who is joining us of the All India Ittihadul Muslimin. He is now joining us. Asaduddin Owaisi, now you are repeatedly saying that in Yakub Memon's case, he has been given death and he was executed because he didn't have political clout. Isn't it a bit dangerous to look at the death penalty through this religious prism?
I am not talking about justice system. I am saying that the political parties in power are intellectually dishonest, that wherever and whenever it suits them, they have protected those convicts wherein the courts have given capital punishment judgment against them. And the examples which I have given, the whole world knows: killer of Bain Singh, killers of Rajiv Gandhi, and then the Gujarat government not allowing the prosecution to appeal against the 23 years life imprisonment given to Maya Kodnani and Babu Bajrangi, asking for capital punishment. So these are examples wherein political backing has supported these people in ensuring not getting a capital punishment.
Let me just put that point to Chandan Mitra. The issue is, when it comes to the criminals accused in Punjab, when it comes to the killers of Rajiv Gandhi, when it comes to others who have political backing, their death penalty is not given. But in this case, when there is no political clout, death penalty is given.
No, death penalty has been given in many cases. Mr. Owaisi may contest as to why death penalty was given to certain Punjab terrorists and some others not, some others were pardoned. That is a matter that he has to take up with the people who delivered that judgment. But there is no religious or communal bias in the judiciary's functioning. After all, the vast majority of those who have been hanged by courts in India happen to be Hindus.
Okay, that's an important point. Mr. Owaisi, 26 have been hanged since 1991. Of them, only 4 are Muslim. So are you suggesting that there's a religious bias?
I am saying that in terrorist cases or in cases where riots have happened or where the Hindutva people have been convicted, capital punishment, where has it been given? And let me also bring out a paradox that the 9 terrorists which were killed in 26/11, their bodies were kept for 6-7 months. The Muslims said we will not allow them to be buried. Ajmal Kasab, the Muslim said no, we will not allow him to be buried in Muslim graveyard. And now Afzal Guru hanging, there was a murmur, but there was a noise in Kashmir. Why is it that now when Yakub's funeral was in 20,000 people were there? Why?
Right.
This is the question which everyone must answer.
This is the question that everyone must answer. Let me just put to you the point, though, again coming to death penalty. You know what Chandan Mitra is arguing, with Mr. Owaisi is refuting, is that, you know, in a country like India, where you've had cases like the Masood Azhar case, when say a hardened criminal who is beyond reform is kept in jail for years, there may be a potential danger to national security, like the Kandahar hijacking, which happened to free Masood Azhar. There may be instances where that dreaded terrorist could take recourse to, say, parole or to other loopholes in the law and move out. So as a result, a hardened criminal does not get the punishment he deserves. That is the problem with removing the death penalty. That is the argument that Mr. Mitra is making, that where terrorism does take place, you have to have the death penalty.
See, Sagarika, we can't actually hang a person because life is very precious. You can't hang a person merely by comparison to BCD. The state may make mistakes in respect of people, but you can't say, okay, now you will hang because the mistakes the states have made in the past. I think Chandan Mitra put his finger on it correctly, but he put his finger on the wrong button. First is he says we are not in the business of reformation. So therefore, what he's saying is we are in the business of taking badla, revenge. Basically, he's saying that you committed a crime, that crime has been proved, you will hang. Now, if the person is coming to you genuinely repentant, if he is saying, I'm sorry for what I did, if he says, look, I will not just say sorry, but I will prove that I am sorry by giving you as much cooperation as possible, information, help you arrest people and so on, I think genuine remorse is a good ground to commute from death to life. That is the short point.
Chandan Mitra, you know, where our systems are so weak, where those who are often given the death warrant cannot get access to proper representation, the evidences that are placed on record at the trial court stage, at the appellate court stage are often very faulty. They don't follow the Evidence Act, they don't get proper legal representation, and these warrants go up to the Supreme Court and then are upheld. So where our systems are so weak, where our legal representation system is so weak, where our evidence system is so weak, where our police investigation system is so weak, can we sustain the death penalty?
Well, you know, I'm surprised that every time some terrorist who is guilty of killing 100, 200 people, when such a person is hanged, all the bleeding hearts of India come out and start pleading their case and saying this is faulty and that is faulty. I'm afraid that if they are faulty for everyone. And those must be reformed. There's no doubt about it. And I will be the first one to say that mercy petitions should be disposed of within a given time frame.
Right.
And obviously, the rarest of the rare principle will apply. But in the case of terrorists who are guilty of mass murder, I don't think there is any great scope for leniency. The state is not running an ashram, and therefore, the reform or whether they've helped, how do we know that he has not helped under interrogation?
But is there also prejudice? Is there also in the judicial mind a certain response, a certain echoing to public opinion? You know, the killer of Graham Staines, he was commuted to life imprisonment. There the court in fact inveighed against conversions and why was Graham Staines converting people, and therefore it seemed to almost find a justification for the actions of Dara Singh, whose life was then spared. Now that doesn't assault the collective conscience of the nation. What assaults the collective conscience of the nation is Yakub Memon, is Afzal Guru, because they happen to be in the line of fire and accused of terror crimes when the chain of evidence is weak.
I think our judicial process is actually still very, very strong and very democratic. You must remember that even somebody who deserved to die long ago, like Yakub Memon, his death sentence was kept hanging.
How is his crime any less than? How is his crime any greater than Dara Singh?
No.
Dara Singh burned Graham Staines and his two sons alive.
That's a judicial judgment.
That's a judicial judgment.
Is
that something that you are in agreement with Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi?
You know, on Graham Staines, we have to remember that the Supreme Court also had to change their paragraphs. You know, those two paragraphs which talked about
conversion.
Exactly. So, you know, one has to keep in mind. And secondly, one also must keep in mind about Yakub's case is that in one judgment it says that even the Manusmriti laws talk about it. So I am surprised that where is that Manusmriti laws as far as the capital punishment is concerned. You know, with a lot of respect at my disposal for the courts of law.
Right.
Yes, there have been different judgments have been given, but the real problem lies with the prosecution. It is the prosecution, unfortunately, which is controlled by the respective state governments.
When Rajiv Gandhi's killers are commuted to life imprisonment because of the long time they've spent in jail, then why does the same not apply to Yakub Memon, who spent 21 years in jail?
Yeah, that's why I believe they should be executed within 1 year. For 1 year of committing the crime, it should be fast-tracked and matter should be over.
Let me also bring you into what the Law Commission has said. Death penalty is not free from the subjective element and is sometimes unduly affected by public opinion. It is fraught with subjectivity and caprice. Is that what applies to the Graham Staines killer and to Yakub Memon?
I'll tell you about the subjective element. It's like Chandan Mitra saying, heinous crime, forget about reformation, whether he cannot, hang him. That's the one extreme. I say, all right, it's heinous, but look at whether the man can be reformed. Bachchan Singh Constitution bench says, look at reform. S.P. Sinha sitting in the Supreme Court judge said, 6 judgments of the Supreme Court are all wrong. Wrong because they only looked at heinous, they didn't look at reformation. Supreme Court judge condemning 6 of his judgments. And today, if you look at Supreme Court judgments, the judges are saying, not all, but many judges are saying, heinous crime, forget about everything else, hang. So now we've gone from extreme to extreme. Is it subjective? Yes. If my case comes here, I'll hang. If my case comes here, I'll live. So life and death is not dependent on the Supreme Court. It depends on a particular judge of the Supreme Court. The particular view of that particular judge will decide whether you live. That is not justice. That is not the law. That is not consistency in the law.
Right.
And that is fatal to the Indian judicial system.
So you feel the death penalty has to be just abolished from the statute books?
It's too erratic, Sagarika. It's too erratic.
Right.
Now, if a Supreme Court judge is telling you all these 6 judgments are fatally flawed, if Justice Kurian Joseph sitting in the Supreme Court
Right.
says this was not correctly done, if judges are going all over the place from one extreme to the other depending on their personal views,
Right,
if they are
right.
not going to follow Bachchan Singh, which is the Constitution Bench decision, because they want to make examples of people, if it is so erratic,
then how can you possibly have the death penalty?
You can't.
You know, in the case of Devinder Pal Singh Bhullar, Chandan Mitra, when the Supreme Court bench scrutinized the SLP, 2 judges upheld the death warrant, but 1 judge acquitted Bhullar. Acquitted. Not even struck down death penalty, just acquitted, said he's innocent.
There are vagaries.
So doesn't that show the high level of subjectivity?
Of course there is subjectivity. Wherever human beings are involved, there will be subjectivity. Sagarika, I don't think that is rocket science to discover that, and I don't think that comes as a surprise. It happens everywhere, and therefore to reduce subjectivity, I think the laws should be reframed and made very clear. When a terrorist is convicted in a case where multiple killings have taken place and a conspiracy to destabilize the country is involved, I don't think there should be any scope
Right, there
for
is no
rarest
mercy
of rare
possible
nothing.
in the case of mass crimes. The question is, does the definition of mass crimes also extend to riots? As Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi is pointing out, we'll take that up after the break. Welcome back to Capital View. There is a huge debate going on at the moment on the death penalty. After the hanging of Yakub Memon, voices are being raised to say that perhaps the death penalty should be completely abolished from our statute books. The argument is that India has got it right on the death penalty because it's not abolitionist, it's not retentionist, it's the middle path, which is rarest of rare.
1992, 3,000 Muslims killed on the streets of Bombay. Justice Sri Krishna Commission report says Bal Thackeray, Shiv Sena, BJP, he specifically names them, are the parties responsible for the massacre. Heinous crime, mass crime, 3,000 people killed. Forget death sentence. Where's the life imprisonment? Where's the punishment for 10 years? Where is the conviction? 3,000 people
Where
killed
are the
in Bombay.
convictions of the people mentioned in the Sri Krishna report, Chandan Mitra? That's the other issue.
Why are we talking about that? Why not talk about 1984 and the anti-Sikh riots?
Also, 1984 also
we
there.
Know
And
who were
2002 in Gujarat. And 1992-93.
Culprits. Yeah, I mean, if the cases are proved against either the masterminds or the perpetrators of these crimes, yes, they must stand trial, and if found guilty of mass murder, they must face the gallows. No 2 questions.
They must face the gallows. Okay, Asaduddin Owaisi, Chandan Mitra is saying, right, if there's evidence against those accused in riots, they also must face the gallows.
Let me remind Chandan Mitra that the government led by the present Prime Minister has formed an SIT to look into the genocide of Sikhs in 84. I am going on record and saying that not a single officer has been allocated to that SIT. When was that SIT established and what is the progress of that SIT? So this is where intellectual dishonesty comes.
You see,
there
Mr.
is still
Owaisi,
a case pending in
you will remember that how many commissions of investigation have actually been set up in the anti-Sikh riots? So many, starting with the Congress. Congress set them up, then previous and non-Congress government had one, and now this government also has set up an SIT. But by now, so much evidence is lost. The Congress party ensured
There's not enough evidence.
that no evidence.
In
no
riots,
evidence
it's difficult to
survived.
find evidence. Is that an issue that in the melee, in a riot, you can't really pin homicide on anyone?
No,
because
no,
you
not
can't
at
really-
all, not at all.
Nobody can
No,
actually see
not
who's
at
doing
all, not
who's
at all.
doing the killing.
Can I answer on that?
Yeah, that in a riot you
Can
can't
I answer
actually
on that?
figure out who's doing the killing. Yeah, Mr. Owaisi, yeah.
You know, this is very convenient that delay is used as a tactic to commute from hanging to life, And again, delay is used in a riot to say there is no evidence. For God's sake, there is evidence. People have seen politicians indulging in killing of Sikhs. You are in power for 1 year. Your SIT was formed a year ago. What progress have you done?
Let's open 84, let's open 2002,
No,
let's open Hashimpura, let's go back and convict and punish all those people.
And reopen 1946 and the great Calcutta killing, for all I care. But then we know that in these kind of riots, it is very difficult, as you rightly pointed out, Sagarika, to pin down individuals and accuse them of killing somebody.
This is totally wrong. It might be that you may not be able to identify all the persons, but you'll certainly identify, you're from the area, surely you will identify the ringleader, the politician, the MLA, you'll identify the policemen who come with the mob, surely you can identify it. What is the reason why? When Muslims die, there's no conviction. When Hindus die, there'll be the death sentence. What is the reason?
Why?
The state, the answer is this.
The
state,
no,
I want to answer it.
The
state
it is a very communal remark and I object.
I
object. This is a very communal remark.
The police are institutionally communal.
When Hindus die, there is death sentence. When Muslims die, there is no conviction. Respond to that, Chandan Mitra.
I was objecting all along to the communal and provocative remarks being made by your panelists here. I mean, which riot has happened in which the Hindus have been let off and Muslims have been hanged? You point out, the Muslims have been hanged in these terrorism cases because they have been terrorists trained by Pakistan and sent here. Which domestic riot?
No, where are the convictions in riots? The question being asked is where are the convictions in riots?
Why then
where are the punishments in riots?
That is the point.
Why is
but
bail
why is he going around saying?
Cases?
Sagarika,
why is he going around saying that Hindus are let off and Muslims are hanged?
Not a terrorist act.
Where is the evidence?
Killing 3,000 Muslims, not a terrorist act. Was the Bombay riot not an act of terrorism? Answer that question. It's clearly an act of terrorism. It's terrorism of the highest order.
Go to court and argue and get the court to say that this is an act of terrorism. But in any case, you have no right to say when there are riots, then Hindus are let off and Muslims are hanged. I don't think there's any evidence whatsoever.
I just want to ask Mr. Mitra that what is his opinion about the Gujarat then government headed by the present Prime Minister telling the prosecution not to appeal for capital punishment for Babu Bajrangi and Maya Kodani? Will the BJP tell their prosecution that we'll appeal for capital punishment for Maya Kodani and Babu Bajrangi? Because it was the BJP government which stopped them.
That Babu Bajrangi should get death sentence and Maya Kodani should get death sentence, for God's sake.
Well, so
we don't want anyone. We don't want death sentence.
We don't want death
sentence. We don't want the death sentence. You don't want the death sentence at all.
But I do want to say that the Gujarat riot was an act of state terrorism.
Okay.
It was a severe, the most serious act of terrorism.
Okay.
Bombay riots was an act of terrorism. That terrorism you will leave untouched because a particular community is behind it.
Politics is determining death sentences. What we can say is that the Law Commission is having consultations on the death sentence until there has been a debate in Parliament. Perhaps it's time to put a moratorium.
Not at all. No, I disagree.
Okay, you disagree with that. Okay.
I disagree.
Very quickly.
I disagree. I think the law must continue, and irrespective of the Law Commission, which can only recommend, the nation has to take a larger call. Should there not be a debate in
Parliament? Yeah. Why should Parliament not debate the death penalty?
No need. There's
no need for a debate in Parliament also.
No need for a debate. Death penalty must stay on the statute books.
Death penalty must stay on the statute books. Death penalty must go from the statute books. And death penalty is only political. Well, three very, very strong opinions on this issue of the death penalty. That's it on this particular episode. Thanks for watching Capital View. We're back next week.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.